Okay, I'm standing here in Old St Mary's Church, and I'm looking at a window of Harry Clarke's, or a window from Harry Clarke's studio, called, I think, the Adoration of the Magi. And it's a Gothic window. So in effect, all of the composition is constrained, if you like, by almost that, what might be described as the golden triangle. You have a pinnacle and then you have a base, and in between them the figures have to display themselves. So it is interesting. You have on the left, you have the main feature. You have Our Lady in the most lapis lazuli, this gorgeous blue. And the light, even though it's very dull outside this morning, it just captures, I think, not just the beauty of the garment, but also reflects on the beauty of the faces, the profile, the faces themselves, both of the child, Jesus, surrounded with a halo, and that of his mother Mary. And of course the dress is just sumptuous. I mean, it's certainly unlike anything I've ever seen before. And every time I see it, I mean, it seems to be more wondrous because you see details that you don't necessarily see the first time. So, for example, this time, because of the light, I noticed that at the feet of Mary there is a crown. And so that crown, does that presage, in fact, that he, Jesus, is the King of the Jews, or the King of the world? Or does it presage something else? There are other details I can't see at this distance. But then, around Mary, there is a group of three, one on his knees and two who are standing. And their heads are inclined towards, in fact, you can see they are looking at the child, you could say, but they're also looking at Mary. So it is called the Magi, or the Magi. They were supposedly the wise men who came from the east and followed a star. I mean, there is the notion abroad that each person has a star. So it's up to each of us to follow our path in life and through life, whatever our own particular vision is. But these men, anyway, came from afar. So where we're talking about here is Bethlehem. They came to. So did they come from Egypt, or did they come from further afield? Little enough is known of them. But they recognized the fact that the star in the sky presaged, or messaged, if you like, a wondrous event. And they understood this wondrous event to be the birth of a Christ child, the chosen one, the anointed one. And then they appear briefly, and then they vanish. But of course, they have become a feature, we'll say, with the rediscovery of the cribs in the medieval times, and almost an unbroken history of, in many Christian countries, of recreating a crib at this time of year, or shortly now at this time of year, in the dead of winter, so to speak, just after the solstice, which would have been a great pagan celebration. And I use the word pagan in the original sense of the word, as in a people who had an understanding of who they were and their place in the world, and who looked to phenomena that were about them, in other words, in the night sky and on the ground, to understand where they were in the order of things. But so Harry Clarke, I think, he captures, if you like, if you look at the bottom figure there, he is kneeling, and so there is a humility about that. His hands are joined, and the other thing about it, I suppose, is that you can recognize that different races are represented to a degree, because they are not white men only. You also have a dark-skinned individual on top right. And so, if you like, it points to the recognition, the universal recognition of this Christ child as someone very special. as it turned out in the history of, in our history, and going back 2,000 years or so. Clarke himself had a connection with Clonmel insofar as that this isn't the only window. There are a number of Clarke windows, and I think it's a pity that not enough people probably just do the tour of the Clarke windows. And in the process, I mean, they visit some beautiful churches, which in many cases today are still Church of Ireland, but there are a number which are Catholic as well. There's one there. There's one only a few miles out on the road to Claheen, just when you come to the junction beyond the Grubbs Mills. And you come to the junction there, and you take a left to go up to Petticoat Lewis's Lake or up into the Knockmeals. And if you go right, just on the corner there, you will see there is a church in that general area there, which again has a Harry Clarke window. And then I suppose you have to go further up into Tipperary, up to Clough Jordan, I think, the Eco Village. And there is a magnificent east-facing window there as well. I don't know if it is as big as this. It could even be bigger, but it's magnificent. And to be there in the morning and just to see the sun rise, I mean, it's an experience that would just leave you speechless.